The Dark Ages.
The Dark Ages was a time right after the Roman Empire had fallen. It was basically the main reason for the Renaissance happening because its art depicted people suffering and completely clothed as opposed to the Renaissance art, which depicted people who were completely naked in some forms of the art. It was considered a sin to be naked in art because it pretty much showed that you felt good about your body, which was imperfect, and that only God was perfect. And people living in the Dark Ages were extremely scared of God because they thought that at any moment they could be struck down and killed, and they were very afraid of going to hell because the reality was that, death was a pretty big issue then. And pretty much this led on to the Renaissance because people realized that, hey, our body isn't bad and that we should be able to show it in any form we feel.
The start of the Renaissance.
The Renaissance started in Italy and was meant to be a rebirth of old culture in Italy, basically to bring back the Roman and Greek cultures back to Europe and outspread to the rest of the world that they knew. The inspiration that was needed to start such a rebirth came from basically viewing all of the old Roman artifacts. The artifacts inspired people to create art that was beautiful and depicted a person in the way that they should be. Elegant and pretty much just a direct view of God's image. This spread, and basically the focal point of the Renaissance happened in Florence, which is where the most famous artists from the Renaissance came from, such as Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo. Leonardo da Vinci is probably one of the most well-known artists of the Renaissance period. He painted things such as The Last Supper and the Mona Lisa. The Last Supper is one of the most controversial paintings that anyone has ever painted, for that matter. Most people don't know that Leonardo was not only a painter, he actually tried to understand all fields of knowledge possible. This included anatomy, astronomy, botany, and geology. He wanted to know all these things because he decided that he wanted to be the most perfect mind in the world. Among Da Vinci's many inventions, Da Vinci invented a self-propelled robot servant. This would amaze his clients that would ask him to do things for him, bring them drinks and stuff. It was an extremely simple robot. It ran on gears and a rudder. The rudder allowed it to turn, and the gears would just make it move. It had 4 wheels, and it was just basically a cart. The only reason for him having this self-propelled robot was to wow his clients and have them actually do what they wanted him to do and pay him a lot more money than what the other people at the time who were offering his services would do. During Da Vinci's strive for knowledge, he would buy human cadavers and dissect them. This was to help him understand how the human body works and how its anatomy was put together. The last book that was ever put together about human muscles and organs and stuff was by the Greeks, and they dissected pigs. Now this was obviously completely inaccurate, and Leonardo was smart enough to understand that. Doing what Leonardo did might seem logical, and it was, but the church did not believe in taking human bodies and dissecting them for knowledge. They thought the human body was sacred, as they should, but they took that to an extent far too much, taking it as a temple of the Holy Spirit and desecrating a temple of God, which was extremely bad, and still is very bad. But back then it was punishable by even death, and that's a huge reason why the church did not like Leonardo at all.
Michelangelo!
Leonardo was one of the most influential minds of the Renaissance, but Michelangelo was probably one of the most influential painters in the Renaissance. He painted things like the Sistine Chapel, the Final Judgment. He sculpted a lot too. His real passion was sculpting. He first started out as an apprentice to a master painter, but dropped out of that just so he could sculpt. One of his most famous sculptures is the Pieta. It's the only work that he ever signed because people have made rumors that he didn't actually make it and it was one of his rivals. Which he had many rivalries and was actually the reason why he accepted to paint the Sistine Chapel, because the Pope at the time threatened to ask his rival to do it if he wouldn't, which he wasn't going to at first because he wasn't going to pay him anything, which was a bad idea.
Everyone loves Magical Trevor, 'cause the tricks that he does are ever so clever. Look at him now,